I thank my noble friend, Lord Alton, for tabling this timely debate. As we have heard, historically, attention has been focused in the north of Nigeria, with the much reported rising number of attacks by Boko Haram. But over this last weekend, violence between the mostly Muslim Fulani herdsmen and Christian farmers in central Nigeria, the Middle Belt, as we've also heard, killed 200 people and destroyed countless number of houses. I share Lord Alton's concern about escalating religious violence against Christians and violations of freedom of religion and belief, largely unaddressed by the state. Ethnic and religious relations in Nigeria have always been a delicate balancing act. But these ongoing tensions with this outbreak of violence are as much products of poverty and inequality across the country as they are deep-seated division. If we want to address issues of safety and security in Nigeria, we also need to address the inequality that modern Nigeria faces. Almost 87 million people in Nigeria live in extreme poverty on $1.90 a day or less. And this number has increased over time, making Nigeria the country with the highest number of people in extreme poverty in the world. Nigerian government figures show that between 1980 and 2010, the number of people in poverty increased by 153%, with nearly 5 million people facing food insecurity and 49% of the younger generation either unemployed or underemployed. I refer to the register of members' interests when I say that Nigeria sits at 128th of the 149 countries in the Legatum Prosperity Index, with particularly low scores in safety and security, economic quality, and health. However, between 2000 and 2015, the number of millionaires in Nigeria increased by over 300%, and Nigeria has had an average economic growth of 7% annually since 2004. This story is an indictment on successive Nigerian governments' failure to manage the country's wealth and a deeply ingrained culture of corruption. The Nigerian National Bureau of Statistics estimates small-scale bribery, for example, to facilitate bureaucratic tasks, amounts to $4.5 billion a year. Nigeria's poverty is significantly more profound in the mostly Muslim north of the country, with 2010 figures showing 74% of the population of the north in poverty, 20% less than in the most Christian south. This division is exacerbated by an educational divide and an investment divide between the north and south. The challenge to avoid clashes along existing lines of tension as a result of this is a great one. In addition, the impact of the Boko Haram insurgency has had an enormous impact in northeastern Nigeria in particular, with 20,000 dead since 2009 and at least 2 million people displaced. The Nigerian military, as we have heard, have shown themselves to be ill-equipped to deal with this insurgency. And despite the Nigerian government's claims that Boko Haram is in retreat, these statements have only been followed by an increase in the number of attacks. The group still poses a significant threat to the stability of this region. Those who have been displaced in northeastern Nigeria number nearly 2 million, and in addition to 200,000 Nigerians in neighbouring countries. This situation is a continuing humanitarian crisis with which the Nigerian government has also shown itself ill-equipped to tackle, leading to the establishing of major internally displaced people camps. The situation in these Nigerian refugee camps, though, is appalling, with outbreaks of cholera, crippling shortages of food and water, and reports of up to 30 armed attacks a month on refugee camps in 2017. Far from places of refuge, this has made the crowded camps into death traps as Boko Haram seeks soft targets. With the UK government now committing to aid funding of 200 million over the next 4 years, compared to the 100 million we committed in 2017, could my noble friend the Minister outline how the government is intending to use this money effectively to focus on the key priorities that affect this country? This latest spate of violence only shows how urgent the need to address inequality is. And with next year's presidential elections looming, it is essential to ensure that the situation is stabilised so that the election is conducted in a safe environment. We know what leads to prosperity in a nation. It is stable government, free of corruption, safety and security, a good business environment and strong skills development. I ask the Minister to particularly outline the balance of aid between a humanitarian response and support for the long-term nation-building response. Thank you.